Alrighty, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this second of this very exciting webinar series for the Enbridge Ride to Conquer Cancer presented by Evraz. I'd like to recognize KPMG, the official sponsor of this series. KPMG has been a national sponsor of the ride since 2010 and a top fundraising team year after year. We have three wonderful panelists today who will speak to you about what to expect during the event weekend, offer some fundraising stories, and provide you with some great training tips to get ready for the ride weekend. My name is Chris, and I will be your moderator today. Want to let you guys know there will be a brief Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So if you take a look at your control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, your GoToWebinar control panel, you can actually submit questions in the questions section just above polls, below webcam there. And then at the end of this webinar, we'll try to mention some of those questions and answer them for you live on this webinar. The three panelists that I mentioned I'd like to introduce right now. Our speakers today will be Kristen, our Ride to Conquer Cancer specialist, who will be talking about what to expect on the ride weekend. Stacy Wojtowicz, team captain for the Melonheads. And finally, Sean Sweeney, training coordinator for the Tom Baker Cancer Conquerors. Again, we are recording the webinar today, so you'll be able to watch this webinar again, rewatch it later on the Ride Map to Success page on the Ride to Conquer Cancer website. It'll also be up on YouTube, so you can share it with all your friends and family and teammates. Thank you again for joining us today, and I would like to invite Kristen to kick it off for us. Kristen, are you there?
Yeah, Chris, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Perfect. Okay, so for the actual 2 days of the event, we've got our start and camp locations. So we don't have the route yet, as most of you guys have heard, but we do at least have that start and camp location. Canada Olympic Park will be our start point, same as last year, and Centennial Arena will be our camp location, again, same as last year. Hopefully you guys who are returners enjoyed it, because it will be another great year. And also our host hotel. So our host hotel, again, is the Grey Eagle Resort and Casino. And that will be where we'll have discounted rates for the hotel, and anyone can stay there from out of town. There will be buses going back and forth, which we will get into in a bit. But that is an option for you to stay instead of camp as well, even though camp is, of course, the best part. So going into the pre-event, we're going to talk about check-in. So you'll have your access to your online check-in 6 weeks before the event. So you'll be able to do it all online instead of the day of the event. Check-in is going to include the mandatory safety video and also your choice of tent mate. So you must request each other to make it work, and you will be able to go from there. Once check-in is complete, you will receive your ride kit in the mail. And that will be sent to you as well as your jersey. Okay, so for the Friday, for the Calgary area riders or anyone who has traveled not from Edmonton or Red Deer on our buses, you'll have packet pickup on Friday from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock at COP. And you'll also be able to drop off your bike at COP between 2 and 7 o'clock during packet pickup, so that you can have your bike there ready instead of having to bring it in the morning. So you can just wake up on Saturday morning and come over to COP. And for the northern and central Alberta riders that are coming from Edmonton as well as Red Deer, we've got 2 shuttles that will arrive. At the Cross Cancer Institute in Edmonton at 5:15. The first bus that fills up will go straight, we'll leave at 6 p.m. and head straight to the Grey Eagle. The second bus will stop in Red Deer and then head to the Grey Eagle. And the bike transportation truck will go straight to COP after departing. So for Saturday, we've got 5 a.m. shuttles that are going to leave the Grey Eagle for Canada Olympic Park. So you can leave your park there overnight and take the shuttles over. 6:30 to 7:30 is going to be breakfast, gear drop-off, and on-site check-in. So if you didn't do the packet pickup the day before, you can also do it that morning and grab some breakfast before our 8 a.m. opening ceremonies. Okay, so actually out on the road, the pit stops are going to be every 25 to 30 kilometers. Along the route, we're going to have bike technicians, medical teams, and at the pit stops, snack and liquids for hydrations, bathrooms, and of course our amazing volunteer and crew coordinator and crew that will be out there cheering you guys on. All right, and for camp. So camp's going to be again at Centennial Arena in Okotoks. Got the address right there for you. There will be limited parking on site. At the camp site, you'll be able to drop off your bike in a secure location, take a hot shower, have a few beers, enjoy a full buffet, as well as live entertainment, and of course, the most important part, registering for 2016. But you'll also have our masseuses out there. We'll have yoga going on. It will really be a great celebration of what we've been able to accomplish together. So lights out at 9:30, and during the night from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., we will have shuttles going back and forth to the Grey Eagle. Okay. And so for Sunday, breakfast is going to be served at 5:30 a.m. The route will reopen by 7 a.m. and the last rider will have to be out by 8 a.m. It'll be a bit more of a casual start, and it'll be on your own time. However, it will be in between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. And the road to COP is going to look like the day to Okotoks, the first day. There's going to be pit stops every 25 to 30 kilometers, as well as all the support from the day before. Once you've crossed that finish line, a barbecue and drinks will be served to celebrate what we've been able to accomplish throughout the weekend and our journey leading up to this. So for the end, shuttles will be leaving the finish line at 4 p.m. and stopping in Red Deer and Edmonton. If you are on the route and feel that you are cutting it close to 4 p.m., if you call dispatch, a SOOP vehicle will come get you if you're worried you're not going to make it. Because they will be leaving at 4 p.m. There will be no shuttles back to the Grey Eagle, so on Sunday morning when you do leave, you will be checking out and bringing all of your stuff to the campsite in Okotoks, and you'll be able to load all of your gear onto our gear trucks, and they will bring it to the finish line for you. And so that's pretty much how that weekend is going to end, so thank you for having me on here.
All righty. Excellent. Thank you very much, Kristen. We appreciate that information. Again, folks, this webinar is being recorded. So all of that information that Kristen just let you know, you'll be able to rewatch that later on our Ride Map to Success page. All that information also you'll find on the Ride to Conquer Cancer website, so you can check in there. Excellent. Now I would like to introduce our next speaker, Stacy, who will speak to you about ways to engage your family and friends with some great fundraising tips. Stacy.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Okay, so some of the ideas that we have run with, as you can see in the photos, we have shaved our heads, which we get the community involved. We set up in front of the Superstore or Walmart, and we wore these little pennies. You know, it was $10 to cut off a braid. All the hair that we cut off, we donated to Angel Hair for Kids, and then all the funds that we raised went to the Enbridge Ride to Conquer Cancer. So that day alone raised $2,300 for 2 bald heads. So if you have a larger team and you have a few more volunteers who'd like to be that brave, you could raise quite a bit more money. That was one event that we had done. Another event that we have done, we've done bottle drives. Bottle drive is a really quick, successful weekend. You can do it in 1 day, you can do it over 2 days. You can talk to your local bottle depot and they can set it up for you, where you just organize bringing it in. They'll set up an account for you, and then once that's done, they will cut a check for you in a couple of days. Or sometimes you can have your bottle depot people come to you and they'll help count and sort. What we do is we get a few volunteers with trucks, we go out into the community, we introduce ourselves, we let them know what we're doing, why we're doing it, do you have any bottles for us, and we find that to be very successful. Each bottle drive has raised at least $1,200 per drive. So you do 2 bottle drives, you've got 2 teammates that are done, ready to go for the ride. We've also set up, at the farmers market in Stony Plain and Spruce Grove. We have a lovely pie toss board that we love to set up for those things. It just gets the community more involved. They know what we're doing. They know what we're all about. It makes you more visible. That way, if they want to just, make a quick cash donation right then and there, they can do that. When they see you cycling out on the road, they know who you are. They know what you're about. And, it just gets you more visible so people can see who you are and what you're doing. Our pie toss board is quite fun. We enjoy it. We drag it to a few different fundraisers. We also like to organize a pub night, and that one, you can talk to different pubs and see what they'd be willing to offer you. Currently, we have one going at our local pub here in Spruce Grove, and we sell tickets for $15 a head. That covers the cost of all-you-can-eat appetizers for the evening, and then the fundraising portion is all of the silent auction items we bring in by petitioning different companies and different businesses in the area, and we get quite a bit. And it's a fun night, and people enjoy it. There are lots of other fundraising ideas out there. I could go on forever about it. However, is there anything else you'd like me to talk about?
No, that sounds great, Stacy. That's fantastic. I think these are some great opportunities for folks to go out into the community and use these different examples that Stacy's provided here on top of the, making the ask to your friends and families, getting on that phone, sending that email out to your friends and family. So coupling that tried and true method with these fantastic community events, a great way to hit and surpass your fundraising goals. So we appreciate it, Stacy. Thanks for these examples.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All righty. So some great tips there from Stacy. Again, folks, just want to remind you, if you are on the webinar today, feel free to head to the question section of your GoToWebinar control panel there. You'll see a few questions there already, but you can go ahead and ask any questions you have, whether it's about the event itself, fundraising, or even training. And we're going to try to answer those for you at the end of this webinar. Speaking of training, I would like to introduce our final speaker for today, who's going to be speaking to you about some great training tips, and that is Sean Sweeney. Sean, you there?
Yes, I am.
Hello, Sean.
Hi.
All yours, sir.
Okay, great stuff. So, once all the money is in and the day of, we got to start pedaling. So we don't really just do the pedaling on the day of. It's very important, obviously, to start with some training rides. If you can start with a 20-kilometer training ride or 80-kilometer training ride, that's entirely up to you. But you want to build and you want to have it fairly consistent. So a lot of questions I get are, when should I start training? And the first bullet point says now, but really it should have been like 4 weeks ago, and maybe like 8 weeks ago, and maybe a little bit more towards the beginning of when you first joined up. So every little bit counts. Every kilometer is cumulative, of course, and it's all about just time in the saddle. The more you have time in the saddle, the more comfortable you'll be. and maybe even, you wouldn't have to stop at the first rest station. Perhaps that's a goal of yours, and that could be one that could be reached by being more consistent and that sort of thing. It does talk about the lifestyle, of course, and that speaks to not just riding your bike, but getting out for a lunch hour walk, just being generally active. And I find that the majority of the riders of the Ride to Conquer Cancer are fairly average weekend warrior type. The majority of the riders are ones that want to contribute as much as possible to the cause, and they're not necessarily the elite athlete in that respect. So what we're trying to do is tailor the training to the majority, and in that case, consistency and early start. And 25K one week becomes 25, or it becomes 30K the next week, etc. And it says build a plan, stick to it, and it'll pay off. And there's no real way to determine how you're going to feel on the day of. So the more time that you have in the saddle beforehand, certainly the better. Eventually, I would suggest probably by mid-July, getting to at least 80 to 100, maybe even 120K on one day. And you're not trying to break any records. You're just trying to be able to feel comfortable so that you can continue all the way through. And the training should begin, well, if it hasn't started, which I'm sure it has for many of you, but as early as possible, and just try to maintain consistency. I think that's a good summary of the first slide. Eating and drinking, of course. There's a general rule: if you are thirsty, you're generally too far behind the curve. So you want to keep hydrated as quickly or as early as possible throughout the day. There's rest stations at each of the at the stops. Certainly that's to address full bladders, but you want to make sure that you're not drinking when you're thirsty, but beforehand. Also, the foods that you choose, we can all go through Canada's food guide and determine what's healthy and what isn't. But I think it's really important to understand that when you're riding, you're not going to have, as the picture shows, the fresh tomato and the baguette. You're probably going to have some sort of gel. You've heard about the power bars and the granola bars and that sort of on-the-go fuel. I would strongly suggest trying a variety of those out beforehand to see how your body reacts to them. Somebody with great advice might tell you, I only use power bar, power gels. Well, that might not sit well with your stomach. So if if gels are the way that you're thinking of going, maybe try out a couple of the different ones on the market before you actually go the day of. Your stomach can do funny things on a ride like this, especially with as much water as you should be drinking, and that's something that's very important. Also, try to find a schedule that's going to provide you with a healthy meal plan, but also provide you with energy to make sure that you can pedal for that first day of riding. Definitely the selection from years past at the camp is very strongly influenced towards the second day. There's a lot of really good carbs and some excellent protein as well. I think, again, that probably summarizes the slide. And you definitely will burn a lot of calories. Obviously, heat and sunlight and how quickly you're going will obviously affect all of that. What gear do you actually need? Let's just skip down to the bullet point that says cycling shorts. If there's one piece of equipment that you could buy, or a piece of clothing that you could buy that would enhance your days, it would be cycling shorts. That said, the bike, obviously, most of the riders prefer, and for good reason, to have a road bike as opposed to a hybrid, as opposed to a mountain bike. However, budget conscious can be certainly an issue, and there's ways to modify a mountain bike or a hybrid so that it's more comfortable for a longer ride, or it's more efficient for a longer ride. If you have any specific questions on that, you can certainly send them to me directly. Helmet not only is a law, but it also is the way that you're going to be most safe, obviously. And if it is older rather than 3 years, that's really important, considering sweat, element exposure, and sunscreen damage potential. More than 3 years, definitely get it replaced. Gloves, I personally don't wear them, but if you want extra padding on your hands, great idea. And if you're at all concerned about what might happen with a fall, generally we try to stretch out our hands as an initial reaction. So the padding on the gloves is very important. The only reason I don't is because of the sunscreen effect. I don't want to have the all of the marks on my fingers. That's the only reason I don't. But I would definitely advocate them for a ride with a mass start for sure. Eye protection sunglasses. The plastic sunglasses are probably better. Any wire rims, they're just a further hazard. And again, the shoes at the bottom bullet point, the stiffer, the more efficient. Running shoes, sure, you can ride for 120, 110 kilometers in running shoes. You'll be more efficient with proper cycling shoes with a stiff sole. Basically, it talks about power transition. Your power goes directly into the pedal, which goes onto the road, which goes into your forward progress, as opposed to that heel, the rubberized heel effect, where quite honestly, 40% of your power can be lost just without having a stiff sole. I think that nicely summarizes that slide there. So training tips, I think we've kind of touched on these before. Spin classes are great, but they really do not replace outdoor training. Outdoor training will expose you to the elements. It'll expose you to how to ride your bike in a group. It'll expose you to how to ride your bike in traffic, how to avoid hazards and obstacles that are inevitably going to present themselves, how to ride in a headwind, how to ride with a tailwind, how to corner. Spin classes are great for general fitness base. Nothing will replace the opportunity to get out and ride outside. Plus, it's so enjoyable. And let's face it, we have a very limited window where we can fully enjoy the bike in Alberta. If the weather doesn't permit, yes, certainly move indoors for sure. And by moving indoors, we can open ourselves up to some cross training, like some rowing. That could be an option. Running, whether it's outdoors or on a treadmill or on a track, anything to basically keep yourself consistent and fit, and making sure that you have the end goal in mind. But getting back to Chris, you don't have to bring it to this slide, but getting back to the very first one is every little bit counts. Every kilometer is always going to be well invested, we'll say. And yeah, that speaks on other fitness classes, of course. So the ride itself is an endurance ride for sure. However, a little bit of speed work wouldn't really hurt, that's for sure. It'll make you more consistent and more efficient over the long run. And by speed work, it could just be, let's say you only have 40 minutes. Well, you could probably only get 20, 25 kilometers done. Do it at a faster pace as opposed to being concerned that you're only getting in 45 minutes at an endurance pace. So I hope these tips help. If there's an opportunity to join a cycling club or join a group of riders, that experience can be invaluable from close proximity riding, from the perspective of getting the opinions of other more experienced cyclists, time in the saddle, and just if you're in the Calgary area, familiarity with the ride itself, like just the true geography of what Kristen mapped out. If you get a chance to actually go on the exact roads, you'll be further ahead of the curve for sure. And so rule number 1, have fun, third bullet point. And again, this is not a race, it is a ride. It's to be enjoyed. The people, the volunteers, your fellow riders, those riders with the different jerseys, the flags, and also the helmets are all ones to make a point of maybe getting to know along the ride as well. That's probably my conclusion as far as training and nutrition requirements.
Awesome. Fantastic. Very good. Those are some incredible tips there from Sean. Excellent. We really appreciate that. And again, all those training tips will be on this webinar, the recorded webinar that you'll be able to see later on YouTube, and as well as the Ride Map to Success page. Alrighty, folks, we have heard from all 3 of our panelists. Once again, thank you to Kristen, Stacy, and Sean for those great tips. We appreciate it. This is your opportunity now to ask any questions that you have that perhaps you didn't hear the answers to during this webinar. So if you'll go to the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel, you can go ahead and type them right in there. In fact, we already have a couple of questions to get started. So we're going to ask the first question from Tom. This might be a question for you, Kristen. Can you park a vehicle at Okotoks on the Friday night with gear in it, and will it be safe? Kristen, you there? Hello, Kristen. You might be muted if you are.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
No.
there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, sure can. So once again, that
We're just
question
checking
was
on this
Checking
answer
on this
really
answer
fast
really
for you.
fast for you.
I'm sorry?
We don't have the answer right now,
now,
but I can definitely reach out to Tom. I work with him a lot, so I will let him know when I get that answer.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you, Kristen. Tom, we'll get that answer to you directly. We also have a question from Dan. On Saturday, I rode the MEC 100K ride. My ride says I burned 4,100 calories. Is that right? How much should I be eating if I am burning this many calories? Sean, that might be a question for you, sir.
Yep. So Dan, if you were wearing a heart monitor and your Map My Ride said 4,100, then it would be true. If you were not wearing a heart monitor, it would be essentially the average common effort level for that type of kilometer distance. 120K, 4,100, it's highly possible, but it all depends on whether your Map My Ride app was tailored specifically to you with your weight and your age and your speed as well. Also, for eating, when I mentioned that you should be drinking well before you're thirsty, you should try to eat around every 45 minutes or so on the ride. There's no one particular type of fuel to take. Some people can go quite a distance without any food, and others can go, that 30 to 35 minutes, and then they definitely need it. So it's good to keep the energy levels up with simple sugars and making the food easily digestible. So your power bars, your power gels, and like granola bars. But at the stops too, they also have the bananas work very, very well as well. So I would say every 45 minutes would be a good rule of thumb to make yourself aware of.
Very good. Fantastic. Thanks, Sean. One question from Claudine. Claudine asks, will we have gluten-free food available more so than in previous years? Kristen,
Yes, we will have gluten-free food available this year. We just do not have any dairy alternatives.
Gotcha. Very good. All righty. It looks like that is it for questions. Folks, thanks again for submitting your questions there. Again, if you have any questions that come up in the next few weeks, feel free to go on the Ride to Conquer Cancer website. You should be able to find answers there. You can always contact us at the Ride to Conquer Cancer office, and we'll answer those questions for you. We appreciate you joining us on the webinar today. Again, this webinar was recorded or is being recorded and will be up on YouTube and the Ride Map to Success page, so you can rewatch it and send it to your friends and family. And again, we do want to thank our sponsor of this webinar, KPMG. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and happy riding to all of you. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.